Welcome back to Kevin Toll Reads. Hope you're having a great Thursday. We are here with another video in my deep dive character study. And today's character is San Dan Glokta, the Inquisitor himself, the former champion. This is going to be fun. So, San Dan Glokta is a fictional character created by Joe Abercrombie in his First Law world. He's introduced to us in the First Law trilogy, in the first book, The Blade Itself, which was published in 2006. He continues to be a supporting character in the Age of Madness trilogy, which was published in 2019, with the first title being A Little Hatred. And so San Dan Glokta is this fictional character that Abercrombie created in his grimdark fantasy world, which is the First Law world. I love this character, so I have kind of been apprehensive about doing this video because I want to do it justice, but this is an interesting take. I have never rooted for a bad guy like this before reading Abercrombie in this First Law trilogy. I thought Glokta at first was going to be a very standoffish kind of character for me. I fell in love with him. I think he's fantastic. He has so many levels to him, and we're going to jump right into it. So who is Glokta? He was a member of the King's Own, which is the standing army of the king in the First Law world. He was captured and tortured for 2 years by the Gurkish, and he is now referred to amongst many people as the cripple in the First Law world. He thinks that no one will love him. He grew very cynical after he was released from the Gurkish after being tortured for 2 years and his body being basically aging very quickly because of the physical torment he went through and being basically a cripple and having to be helped. He became very cynical and saw the world in very gray eyes when he was traded for a release of some prisoners. And after he came home, he kind of nursed himself at his mother's in the countryside, and really no one besides Column West ever came and checked on him. So he became he grew a very cold heart towards the world. And so from there, he goes and spends time being kind of an overseer or supervisor of these mines in England, which is a city in Ottawa. And so he bolsters production in the mines and then returns home, and he decides to join the Inquisition or the Inquisitors and work for Superior Goyle, who also works for the Lector Salt. And so Glokta despises Goyle, and so he's very he's very interesting. At first, when I was reading it, he reminded me of a couple different characters in different movies. How he kind of had these introspective thoughts about what he wanted to do to Goyle. I can definitely see different characters in some of the movies I watched as growing up. The guy in Office Space, the stapler, he's always mumbling to himself. Oh, he reminded me of that a little bit. But back to Glokta, he's this inquisitor. He basically brings people in for questioning, and he is given carte blanche to be able to torture them and to get everything on behalf of the king. And so he has several what he calls practicals that accompany him. Severard and Frost. Severard is this tall, lanky man. He's kind of funny, likes knives. And Frost is this massive albino who has a very, very swollen tongue. And so he talks really funny. You can't understand a lot of enunciation. And he has kind of that speech problem, but he doesn't speak much. He's very stoic. But I really enjoyed the practicals. I thought they were a great supporting cast to Glokta. So why do I enjoy Glokta? What's some cool things about him? He doesn't fear anything because of his physical situation. And especially when you're reading the first book and you're getting to know him, you basically realize that he would welcome death. Like, He hates climbing stairs. It's you almost kind of at first are kind of taken back by him, and you kind of like, wow. And you don't want anything to do with him. He's just a terrible person. He's very evil. He kind of seems like he really enjoys the torturing and the questioning he does with some of the people he brings in. But then you can't help over kind of the course of the first book start to pull for him. And so I thought it was really, really well done. I mean, that just goes to show you how good of a writer Abercrombie is. Glokta was a sword champion in what they call the contest. It's this yearly sword and fencing contest that the great champions from all over the realm, they come and meet, and in front of the king and his noble family, they have this contest. The winners are usually catapulted into what is usually a seat on the closed council, which is really a group of these distinguished, high-profile people that shape the course of everything that's going to transpire within the realms. And so it's a really interesting kind of perspective and aspect of the story. I really enjoy Glokta, again, from the story arc. You get to see him in very pitiful, grim, and then you get to see him throughout this trilogy really come to his own. You realize how cunning, ruthless he is. He is such a powerful character. He reminds me a lot of Tyrion Lannister from A Song of Ice and Fire. I mean, he doesn't have the physical attributes to be imposing, but he has this mind that is just, he's always a step ahead of people. And so his arc throughout this trilogy and then into the other trilogy is really, really cool. So a couple excerpts that I had, one of them was Glokta, and he says, every man has excuses. The more vile the man becomes, the more touching the story has to be. And then another one was he was having a conversation with Artie, who becomes his wife later in the series. He goes, why? And Artie's like, because you're a ruthless, plotting, bitter, twisted, self-pitying villain. You asked. And Glokta says the question was meant to be rhetorical. And that might sound like an inside joke, but that's really kind of the witty, dry humor that I found really funny with Glokta. He does have great supporting characters. And the story in of its own, the trilogies, have really great characters as well. I think Glokta really stands out as the creme de la creme, the main POV in the first trilogy, along with Logan Ninefingers and Baez. But I really like the interaction with Artie. I like the interaction with Colin West. I like the interaction with Giselle, the Arc Lector, Salt, Superior Goyle, and his practicals. I thought it was all really, really interesting. So in terms of where you should read, obviously you got to start with the main trilogy, The Blade itself being book one. I think you get your first look at Glokta, and I think it's well worth it to do that because you get to see his arc, his character development throughout that. One other cool fact that I was remiss in mentioning earlier, when you are reading this, you don't really know at the time, but you kind of understand, like, he's 30 in his mid-30s at the time, but his physical, debilitations from the torturing and what happened to him, he acts, and you kind of he reads like a 65-year-old man. So I found that really, really interesting. Again, if you start with the first trilogy, the First Law trilogy, The Blade itself, I think it's fantastic, and I think Glokta is what steals the show in this book for me. So that is my take. If you've read the First Law trilogy, I would love to know your thoughts about Glokta. He definitely is a polarizing character. There's people that like him. There's people that love him. There's people that say he is what steals the show. He is the best character out there in terms of grimdark fantasy, period. And I kind of agree with them in that aspect, because it's just so many people pull for this evil person. And so Let me know if you've read it. I would love to get your thoughts. And I hope you have a great day. And we'll talk again soon. Thanks. Bye.